You see that aqua squiggly line? That's micro-term moving average. As you can see in last several trading sessions, bulls made sure to ride that micro-term. What really happened though today, there was this down gap that needed to be filled. We filled that down gap the 4th hour. It finally got filled. And then we pulled a little bit of pullback, because once it gets filled, it's going to act as instant resistance. And the 6th hour, you see, we did see closing the day on a positive note. But we're really happy. You guys remember this? Remember we talked about the fact that remember we talked about this on the last video, that rising pivot, right? That's the resistance, 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 right? Resistance, resistance. We gapped over it. What acted as resistance in the past is possibly a new support. And that's what happened here last week. Right? Friday, or today's Tuesday. So yes, Friday, and this is Monday, and this is Tuesday, and the micro term. So we talked about the fact a lot of times he's going to break out above the rising pivot, and then he likes to come and retest before seeing that next leg higher. So we're seeing something similar in the last couple days, holding above the microterm. Also, it was important for the buyers to stay above on that microterm. I can see that again, that microterm is because that oscillator, as you can see, that oscillator also established this uptrend support here, right? That's the low, higher low, higher low. And we pay attention when we see that oscillator cultivating higher lows, because oscillator is not meant to cultivate higher lows. They're supposed to oscillate from the top of his band to the bottom of his band. Once you start to see that, it's kind of like an opposite, effect to what we saw here. You see some of these lower highs here, and you see how the market grinded. But you remember that abrupt sell-up that we saw, that's the bearish effect. We're seeing the opposite of that is bullish effect. And right now we're just right on this possible resistance here on that oscillator. But for bullish continuation to the upside for the new all-time highs, as long as there's no shenanigan, sizable down gap. When I say sizable down gap, I mean if it gaps down a little bit, at least it stays above the micro term. I think that's okay. If you open flash, it's okay. Gap up will be even better. But if this thing gaps down below the micro terms, it gaps something like this, and then oscillator can quickly cross back down. So what the bulls needed to do and need to dodge is just a shenanigan sizable down gap to get that oscillator, because the oscillator is stretching and it's ready to break out. So only thing it's going to prevent from this oscillator breakout for the price to cultivate and establish, riding the new all-time highs is a sizable down gap. If there's no sizable down gap, we have a setup here that's gonna get us a new all-time highs. Today, I do want to talk about quickly NVDA, because NVDA is very, very interesting. It's up 4% today. Perfect. And quickly, I was talking about the rising, that higher lows on the oscillator. Look at this. We got the higher lows here back in August, and on this oscillator here on NVIDIA. Very similar looking thing here happening. Higher lows here. When we see higher lows, we pay attention. What happened was back in August, we had what it looked like a potential inverted head and shoulders, and that's the neckline right here. As I zoom in, you will see that that's the neckline right here. Got the left shoulder head, right shoulder. We thrust above it. Check out that midterm moving average. That's the blue dotted moving average. We thrust above it, and then we see how it consolidated above the that midterm moving average, dotted blue line. Look at all the micro term, short term kind of coming together, while we've witnessed that oscillator doing this, right? That higher lows. That's when we saw NVIDIA went pretty much straight up for like a week and a half or so. We have a very similar setup here. Perfect. As you can see, what we have is kind of like a sort of like an inverted head and shoulder here. The gap held. Look at that midterm coming here, right? That midterm. And you see that neckline, we broke above it and we're consolidating while that oscillator is cultivating higher lows and stretching, right? And looks pretty similar to, this is a neckline right here of inverted head and shoulders. That's the neckline, new support. There's here, that's the neckline, right? That's a new support, that's a midterm, that's a midterm. So bulls are going to run into the resistances at 125, 126, both of these falling resistances and the down gap. They're gonna act as resistance. For this to turn into full-blown uptrend, bulls must break up. Remember we just talked about rising pivot? Now we're dealing with the falling pivot. What bulls need to break above it, come down, retest, and then they can fly.